if you are like me and didn't watch the India-Pakistan match last night at the Asia Cup in Dubai, then there's a very good chance that the only thing that you did get from the match are these three images. Two Pakistani cricketers indulging in obnoxious behavior on the field. But I'm here to tell you why you shouldn't perhaps be reacting the way you are perhaps reacting to these three images that have come in from Dubai. So we are angry because a couple of Pakistani cricketers flashed some hand gestures on the field in Dubai last night. 6 fingers, jets shot down, using a bat like an AK-47, all the usual shady Pakistani nautanki mind games. The truth is, viewer, only a fool will lose sleep over the theatre of a cricket team from a third-rate country that has just been bombed. Pakistan is a nation that spent an entire summer watching its air bases get holed by Indian BrahMos missiles. So forgive me tonight for not taking their field theatrics too seriously or too emotionally. They do what they do to save face, or they'll face chappals back home in Pakistan, which they anyway will, given what I've heard about how the match actually went. The real anger tonight, however, is not about Pakistan's players. Humiliation, defeat, damage, destruction, they're all in their DNA already. They lose wars, they lose matches, they lose credibility, which is non-existent now. That's normal for Pakistanis. But here's the uncomfortable truth tonight, jokes aside. We gave them this stage. We allowed these obnoxious Pakistani players to make those gestures and anger some of us. The BCCI, with the blessings of our system, legitimized a national team that should never have had the privilege of playing against India. Now, you may think I sound like a stuck record, but this is a matter of principle that I take very seriously. I don't buy this multilateral event garbage. Every run that the Pakistanis scored, and apparently they didn't score very many, every rupee their board makes from these tournaments seeps back into the soil that spawns the very terror that our armed forces are fighting. It props up the military and arms their jihad factory. So ask yourself tonight, what is the bigger insult? That two Pakistani nobodies, and I don't even know their names, flashed some hand gestures on the cricket field that we won't even remember tomorrow? Or that we, in our hunger for cricket spectacle, handed them the platform to be their dirty, remorseless, shameless Pakistani selves? The joke tonight isn't on Pakistan. It is very much on us. And there were three gestures. There were three gestures that have gone completely viral on the pitch. But I have a bit of an interpretation as to what these gestures really meant. So please bear with me, viewer, as I indulge in a little analysis of my own, having not watched the match whatsoever. Here's one cricketer from Pakistan using his bat like an AK-47 to celebrate his 50. This is what I think he actually meant. He was talking about the Pahalgam terrorists who were gunned down by the Indian armed forces. That's what, in my mind, I like to think he actually meant. Then there was the second gesture where you had Haris Rauf, apparently that's his name, I don't even know that, held up the 6 figure like that. Most people had their own interpretations, but in my mind, good old Haris Rauf was talking about the 6 frontline Pakistan Air Force bases that received huge holes in their hangars courtesy of Indian BrahMos missiles. And finally, the third gesture that has everyone in a twist was Haris Rauf apparently, I don't even know, I didn't even see this, but apparently it's big on social media, showing some aircraft being shot down or aircraft crashing. I think he meant that the Indian Air Force chief, AP Singh, had shot down all those aircraft, and that's what he's paying tribute to. Such a patriotic Pakistani cricketer saluting his Air Force and saying, thank you for your sacrifice in the face of Indian Air Force missiles. So that is my interpretation of all of this. I don't mean to be facetious at all, but when you are faced with this kind of silly, juvenile sandbox obnoxiousness, how else am I supposed to analyze it? But let's get serious and ask our experts today what they really think. Rika Roy, my colleague and friend, sports editor of NDTV, is live with us. Kushal Mehra is author, podcaster, someone who I know has very strong views about what's, what has beamed out from these television screens and gone viral on social media. Kushal, to you first. The mind games, the gestures, the psychological attacks by these cricketers, they must have planned it in advance. I mean, this was a platform for them to, actually say something to India, and they took it. I'm not even angry at them.
Good evening, Shiv, and good evening to everyone. I actually don't want to give so much credit to Pakistanis for having a functioning brain. I think if we give them the credit that they must have planned in advance, the default assumption will be that Pakistanis have a functioning brain. It can't happen. It's an instinctive thing. I think other people in sport have also done it. But what bothers me is what you said in your own monologue, that why are we playing against them? Shiv, look at the facts of the case. The BCCI does not even take any money of the Asia Cup. The entire so there are basically 5 parts to the revenue distribution, and India gives its part entirely to the smaller associate nations for development of cricket in Asia. So if this was the case, why are we legitimizing this tournament in the first place? The argument about, we have to play multilateral events, about some, Olympic dream that somebody has hatched up somewhere inside the system. I don't understand why do we have to bother about it. Like, the Russians are not allowed to play Olympics because the Americans decided. So, for us to make all these kinds of... And Shiv, the entire kicker in all of this is, this excuse that we can't avoid ICC tournaments. Let me give you an example. There is something called the World Test Championship in cricket. It is a 2-year shenanigan that goes on, which eventually ends up with one final, where we have had 3 renditions of that. Guess what? India has not played Pakistan in a single bilateral required tournament in the World Test Championship, which is an entirely ICC tournament where everybody gets points. So it's all hocus pocus. It's just pure, unadulterated greed. And we're just supposed to sit there and do nothing about it.
No, I completely agree that there is absolutely no justification whatsoever to this, whether it is multilateral tournaments, whether it is, this is not bilateral, it's a platform to humiliate Pakistan. Look at us, we beat them. I don't buy any of that rubbish. Rika, from an administrator's point of view, how do they see this? They've explained it, they've done their bit, they've said, khelenge hum, it's a multilateral tournament. Let's move beyond that. What happened yesterday on the field, does this ever enter the scheme of things and the thought process of the BCCI and the administrators, that ultimately this gave a platform to Pakistani players to insult many people? Many people, I don't want to belittle the emotions of Indian cricket fans.
Well, Shiv, I think you and I are only talking about conflict in cricket. The administrators are all talking about commerce in the end. And let me join the dots. This Asia Cup tournament was a non-starter. It is first thing first, the hosts of this Asia Cup tournament are India. The tournament wouldn't happen in India because Pakistan wouldn't come to India. So the whole entire tournament moves to Dubai.
Yeah.
And why does it move to Dubai? Because the administrators are convinced that they need to make money and they need to pay the smaller nations. Pakistan makes around 141 million. The evening before, we saw Mohsin Naqvi, the president of Pakistan Cricket Board, the Interior Minister of Pakistan, and Asian Cricket Council chief pay a visit to the Pakistan cricket camp. In what capacity he was there, we don't know. But he was there. While he was exiting, the reporters asked him that Pakistan hasn't spoken. He said, we will speak. So maybe this was the way for Pakistan to speak on the field. That is what I assume. And by connecting the dots, I will also have to take you back to the first press conference that Salman Ali Agha, the Pakistan captain, had ahead of the tournament, where he said that he is not going to tame aggression by his players. This boy, who has made the gun gesture last night, is from the province of Pakhtunkhwa. And Pakistani journalists are saying that this is normal in the province of Pakhtunkhwa to do a gun celebration. So they are normalizing it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all of the politics and the cricket that we are talking are being brushed aside by the administrators, because all they're looking at is commerce. And the person who's going to laugh all the way to the bank is Mohsin Naqvi.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, even that explanation of him being from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and this is normal there is ridiculous. The Pakistan Air Force has just killed 30 children and women in a wrongly targeted strike in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The people there are not idiots. They know exactly what this gesture means, especially in the context of an India-Pak match. But Kushal, for a country that badly lost a military operation in Operation Sindoor and yet pretended like it had won the operation, promoted its general to field marshal and painted itself as some kind of a victor in the entire operations. If I were to apply that analogy to the cricket match, they've lost the match, but they've managed to trigger Indians. So in many ways, the Pakistanis will also feel quite chuffed about what happened yesterday. And we've given them the platform to do so. These guys will be heroes on Instagram and social media or whatever else it is that is allowed to be used in Pakistan.
Shiv, you've forgotten. It was Asim Munir who used the dump truck analogy. Matlab, they are the past masters in Besharmi. If there was a Nobel Prize in Besharmi, Pakistanis will win it every single time. So how can you shame a Besharam? वो तो कह रहे हैं ना हम बेशरम है, वो कह रहे हैं मैं नंगा हूं, हम उनको बोल रहे कपड़े पहन ले, वो नहीं पहनना चाहते. So somewhere down the line, Shiv, we have to introspect, was this worth it? See, if somebody would have told me, Shiv, ki we will have to play them at a knockout stage in an ICC tournament, I would have still digested it as a person who loves cricket and who actually hosts a podcast that discusses cricket regularly.
Yeah.
But this tournament it's just, I think as if, the BCCI likes to self-flagellate and humiliate itself. And the government of India actively encourages them in doing that. There is no rationale behind this. Pakistanis will find something or the other to celebrate in everything.
Yeah.
Shiv, I was, just trying to look at snippets of Pakistani YouTube. They are like, हम तो डूबे हैं सनम, हम तो पहले से ही डूबे थे, मगर देखा तुम लोग तो चिढ़ गए ना. I mean,
exactly.
वो कौम ही ऐसी है यार, तुम क्या करोगे उसका? मतलब मेरे को और कुछ बोलने को ही नहीं हो रहा है.
It's tragic, and it was the BCCI that gave them the platform to do that. I think that's the end point here, and I will continue to say it for as long as the Asia Cup actually takes place. Kushal, good to have you. Rika, thanks so much for adding that perspective on this story. I didn't watch the match, but I still feel strongly about what happened. That's the irony of this situation. Thanks, guys, for being with me.
Pakistan Armed Forces.
That was with the armed forces. And the armed forces and the people of Pakistan.
घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपकी armed forces are fully alert.
There are armies, there are militaries, and then there are Pakistan's self-styled armed forces. So named in tribute to how their netas and generals, like you just heard, proudly mispronounce armed forces, spawning one of the biggest internet memes post-Operation Sindoor. Now today, these same Pakistani armed forces put on display yet another masterclass in tragicomic warfare. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pakistan Air Force today, viewer, under the illustrious eye of General Asim Munir, set out to bomb terrorists. But what did they actually achieve? They bombed a village, killing 30 innocent Pakistanis, including women and children. Now, credit where it's due, and these images are very, very disturbing, so I advise some caution. It is in fact extremely difficult to drop a bomb anywhere in Pakistan, but particularly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, without hitting a terrorist or a terror camp. Yet somehow Pakistani fighter pilots managed the impossible today at 2 a.m. A surgical airstrike that surgically avoided every terrorist in the vicinity and landed squarely on the tiny percentage of Pakistanis who are not terrorists. That's the sort of precision only the Pakistan military can be proud of. But we must understand the pressure the Air Force of Pakistan is under this year. After the humiliation of Operation Sindoor, where their missiles couldn't so much as dent a parking lot across the border, their target analysts and intelligence experts are understandably nervous and eager to prove themselves. They are loose cannons with loose bombs. Their solution now is simple. Drop bombs anywhere. Hope for the best and prepare to announce a great victory. Unfortunately for Pakistan's dwindling innocent population, they are the inadvertent targets of choice. Asim Munir, and I refuse to call him a field marshal because that is a joke on everyone who has achieved the rank of field marshal. Asim Munir will no doubt step up, chest out, claiming yet another decisive blow against terror. But the truth is that Pakistan today has a military that is less an institution of defense and more a parody of itself. A dangerous parody, not a joke. A cartoon military that bombs its own people, fails against real adversaries like India, and still insists on being called professional. The only phrase that fits is the one they've given themselves, and I don't want to say it again. So let us join the grieving people of Pakistan in saluting their forces. Not that they have a choice. And I want to go across now to NDTV's Aditya Raj Kaul, who broke this story first early this morning. Aditya, 30 people killed, all of them innocents, no terrorists among them. What were they trying to bomb? How did they get it so wrong? This isn't the first time this year this has happened.
Well, this has been happening for years, Shiv. I mean, the only surgical strike that the Pakistani military has been successful at is against its own people.
Yeah.
In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Balochistan, in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, continuously, day after day, month after month, week after week, there have been such killings that have happened. In fact, the Amnesty International was forced to issue a statement in June this year, stating that, such kind of drone attacks and airstrikes have continued for years together. When will it stop? And there is no explanation. The ISPR of Pakistan that jumps every possible day on the killings that have happened, against India, etc., but does not issue a statement of a signed airstrike against their own people in Tira Valley of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I mean, 30, most of them women, and it's not just that there are a couple of women and children that have died. Most of those killed innocent civilians are women and children. So that is the kind of damage that has happened here. And the Pakistan Army Chief, Asim Munir, is preparing yet another lunch with Donald Trump. That will happen perhaps in a few hours from now. So the big question really is that will the world community really ask Pakistan some uncomfortable, tough questions?
Yeah.
And what more evidence do they need? There are videos coming out of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. People are protesting, demanding justice.
Absolutely.
The Pakistani military establishment is silent. The Pakistani government is silent. And they are going to talk about Gaza and Kashmir with Donald Trump now.
It's incredible. It's going to be that third lunch with Trump since Operation Sindoor. And I am not going to spend any sleepless nights, Aditya, and I'm sure neither are you, wondering whether the US is going to change its mind in how it deals with a country that bombs its own people and is called an awesome partner in the war against terror by one of the senior most US military generals. It's a truly pathetic situation in the region right now, and Aditya will continue to track it. Thanks very much, Aditya, for joining us on that big story that you heard first here on NDTV. It's a wrap here on India Matters. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.